Hey, Super Dizzle.
What be up, man?
What are we doing today?
We are going to go tour the Good Enough Silver Mine.
Right here.
Yep.
Good Enough Mine, underground tour.
Yep. 60 steps up and down. We're going to make sure Captain gets his exercise.
Exercise today?
Yep. But apparently there was more here than I realized. There's like a little petting zoo or
Yeah.
something and some other little attractions.
Here, let you guys see. Here we are, Silver Mine tour. So we're going to be silver miners today. Old trolley cart, looky here. Some kind of trolley cart over here too. The tour, some kind of trolley tour. We got old miner right here. Hopefully he's not a 49er though.
Not that young.
Alright, so here we go, guys.
We're going.
Hey, what do you say? This whole town could be red by the end of the day. If you feel alright, we can throw it and drive. With the radio world so loud they can hear us from now.
5 minutes in.
Nothing to do. These days they come and go. Me and you, nothing to lose. I feel it in my soul. So let's let the good times roll.
Hi, buddy. What are you doing? Hey, Captain Papa.
Hey, what up?
What are your expectations for this here tour?
Walk down 6 flights of stairs in a dark hole. That's about it.
What has been your favorite so far?
Favorite part of what? Tombstone? Boy, howdy. Yeah.
Yeah, it hasn't really been that
It's
impressive.
not that impressive.
Nope.
I ate at 2 restaurants that were both not good. The coolest part of Tombstone I can't afford. Put it that way.
And that,
Was a hat I found in a hat shop.
right.
They want $327 for a dang old hat, man. Can't do that.
It was a pretty cool steampunk hat, though. I liked it a lot, too.
Yeah, it was cool.
All right. I'm just killing time. Peace.
temperature down here is 68 degrees. It stays that year round, about 15% humidity. In the summer, it's nice and cool. In the winter, it's not. Now, the first thing I'll point out is this white, bubbly-looking rock over here. That's calcium carbonate. There's a good chance you've eaten calcium carbonate if you've ever had Tums. Tums is 100% calcium carbonate. Well, they'll take that out, they'll grind it down into a powder, add some food coloring, put it in a tablet, and sell it. Next time you take a Tums, look at the label. It says just one ingredient. That stuff right there. Folks, this blackish rock over here, that is silver ore. It surprises my guests because they're kind of expecting to see a silvery metal, kind of like gold. But about 97% of the silver underneath Tombstone is in the form of silver chloride. And chloride has a black appearance like that. Later on my tour, I'll tell you how we process that chloride and turn it into the silvery metal you were expecting. Now, someone asked about the veins of silver down through here. I usually don't show this to folks. You can see this vein that runs right through here, but if you look on down the way, it goes all the way down through there. This same vein comes all the way back up past the intersection where we came through here. So yeah, silver does form veins down underground, and they would follow those veins wherever they went.
Why did they leave all this?
Well, my guess is, and it's only a guess, this is fairly low grade right here. So at some point, some engineer would have come down here and said, look guys, there's better silver right over there. Let's leave this and we'll come back and get it later. And then they just never came back. I mean, that makes sense to me. That's a reasonable explanation. Come right on through.
I mean, it seems to me like part of your tour, you just start putting these people to work here. Every day.
Yeah.
Get one of them deals and tell them, take a couple of whacks at it just so you can know what.
I always tell my boss, give everybody a pick when they come down.
There you go.
Now, folks, this pretty rock wall. So welcome to the valley. That is chrysocolla. Now, chrysocolla and turquoise look a lot alike. They are related. They both have copper in their formula. That's what gives them that blue-green color. But the main difference is chrysocolla also includes silica, where turquoise has phosphorus. Well, that makes chrysocolla soft. It's really hard to make jewelry out of it because when you try to grind it or drill it, it just flakes into little tiny gravels. Turquoise is much harder. This mine is full of chrysocolla, but every time you turn your head, you'll see more of that blue-green rock. In fact, out at the end of the valley, way over there on the end, you'll see another big patch of chrysocolla. Up on the surface, there's lots of chrysocolla up there. All of those blue-green rocks are chrysocolla. We do not have any turquoise on our site at all. Now, the most dangerous thing those guys did was eat lunch. See, they worked a 10-hour shift. They got one 15-minute break for lunch. This was not a union shop. Their favorite meal was either peaches or beans. They would bring that down in a tin can, just like this one. We found this can on a lower level of our mine, so I know at one time this can held either peaches or beans. Well, they would start that lunch break, take a knife, jam it in the end here, twist it around a little bit, and drink it down, whatever was in there. The peaches, the beans, and all of the juice. And you're thinking that doesn't sound so dangerous. If you look at the end of this can, you see a silver lead. Now that is lead. This can is sealed with lead on the bottom, on the top, and on the side. So welcome to our chapel. Now, I do not know why they started calling this area the chapel, but what I do know are two facts about where you're standing right now. First, this is the deepest part of our tour. At this point, you're 110 feet underground. If you could somehow go through those rocks up to the surface, you'd come out in front of our ticket office, but about 20 yards on down the road. Second, this is our chapel. We have weddings down here. Over the past 20 years, we've had 32 weddings right here. So if you know somebody who wants to get married 110 feet closer, do you know where? Here's your spot. Camera person next to you there. All of our silver ore would go from here to the mill for processing. Our mills were about 8 miles from here
Pretty
off that
cool. Oh,
direction
good.
on the San Pedro River. We put the
I'll
mills
catch
on
it
the
on the
river
end.
because you need water to process silver. First place it would go to the mills was called a jaw crusher. It works kind of like this. It would crush that rock down to the size of these rocks you see in front of us. From the jaw crusher, it would go over to what's called a ball mill. Now, a ball mill was a giant steel drum about 20 feet across and 40 feet long. That ball mill would be filled about half full of the ore, and then they would add steel balls similar to this. Now, those balls had all kinds of sizes. Some were as small as golf balls, some were as large as bowling balls. But they would put a whole bunch of these steel balls in there, seal it up, let it rotate around for about 3 weeks. All that thumping and bumping around. At the end of that time, the ore would come out of there the size of the gravel in a parking lot. They would take that over to the stamp mill. Now, the stamp mill had 2 parts. There was a flat piece of steel on the ground called the anvil. Above it was a flat piece of heavy steel called the hammer. They'd pull that up about 20 feet. Put that ore on the anvil, the hammer would trip and fall and crush that ore into a gray powder. They would take that powder over to the vat. That was a giant steel tub about the size, a wooden tub about the size of this area right here. They'd fill that about half full of that gray powder, put enough water in there to turn it into a thick, pasty mud. There were some wooden paddles that would keep that mud stirred up. They'd bring the thing to a boil. And then they would add copper sulfate, salt, and mercury. Now, mercury was the catalyst that pulled the silver out of the chloride part. That silver would float on that mercury bath. The miners would skim that off of there and pour it into a mold to make an ingot that was 95% pure silver. Now, before I go any further, do you see a problem with having a mercury bath like that in a mill? Yeah. I said there was something worse than lead poisoning. That would be mercury poisoning. Those poor guys only lived about 3 to 5 years. Now, today we use a much safer chemical. We do use cyanide. And yeah, usually that gets a chuckle. Cyanide, though, is much safer. You see, mercury has a vapor. If you're just in the same room with mercury, you can get mercury poisoning. Cyanide does not vaporize. You can only get poison from it if you get it on your skin or drink it or something. So as long as you're careful with cyanide, it actually is a fairly safe chemical. At any rate, they would pour that silver into a mold to make an ingot. Now, those ingots had a weird shape. They were shaped kind of like a giant Hershey's Kiss, that big around and that tall. They weighed 180 pounds each. Would you want to guess why we would want an ingot of silver that weird shape and weight? Well, let's call it 1880s theft control. The average man in those days only weighed about 150 pounds. Ain't nobody going to pick something like that up and run across the desert very fast. And that's why they made it that weird shape and weight. Now, our silver ingots would be taken north to the little town of Fairbank, put on a train, and head east to New Orleans. At New Orleans, it would go to the mint. At the mint, they would refine it down to 99.9% silver and then stamp out these things, silver dollars. Now, this is a special silver dollar. It was minted in New Orleans in 1881.
Nice.
Between the years 1880 and 82, all of our silver went to New Orleans. So I know at one time this silver dollar was ore in this mine. When I found it, I bought it, so every time I have a tour, I can bring it down here, can have a little family reunion with all of its cousins. Folks, that is the end of my tour. I have just a few.
That was our tour of the Good Enough Silver Mine, Tombstone, Arizona. Hope you enjoyed. Like, subscribe, share. We'll see you next time. Giddy up and go.